back as we broadcast live from SEC Media Days right here in the College Football Hall of Fame. I'm Dave Hooker with Amanda LaFratta. We appreciate all of our fine sponsors for bringing us down here, especially Bowles Automotive Group right there on Callahan. They've got the selection, they've got the service, they've got it all right there at Bowles Automotive Group. And we want to talk SEC East, and we're going to do it with a guy that knows South Carolina as well or better than anybody not named Beamer. It is Jay Phillips joining us now of 107.5, and he's in Columbia. He covers the Gamecocks. Jay, how are you, sir?
I'm well. I do love this setting. I almost wish we could do this here all the time. I won't say I miss Birmingham because I don't, but I do like this. But I know they won't get us out of. They'll get us out of here. We won't be back for a while, I guess.
I got a feeling it's going to be
This is a cool place, man.
Yeah.
This is a cool place.
It is cool. I got a feeling it's going to be in Nashville and Dallas before long.
I believe Nashville is all but locked up for next year.
Okay.
That's what I was asking a conference official earlier. I guess it's not 100%, but go out on a limb and say 95.
Where would it be in Nashville?
That I don't know.
Is it Bridgestone, maybe?
I would say downtown somewhere. I don't know. I'll leave that to somebody who makes more money than me.
Well, it's certainly not at Vanderbilt's facilities.
No, I don't think. No. It'd be. I imagine. I mean, Nashville has a lot of great hotels that have conventions.
Yes, they do.
So
they do.
Oh, Opryland.
Yeah,
I bet it would be at Opryland.
Maybe.
I'm down for Opryland.
I would think whoever wants to help the conference sponsor it in some form or fashion, we'll get the winning bid.
Yes.
Yes.
And then I have heard Dallas. I imagine. I don't know. This is me talking. They might do this in Texas somewhere once Texas and Oklahoma are actually in the league, although they have talked about it before just because of A&M. I even saw that same conference official I was talking to. I said, well, if you're doing it in Texas, do it in San Antonio. Everybody says San Antonio is the best. So we'll see.
Let me ask you about transfer Spencer Rattler.
You're the first one to ask me that.
Yeah, I'm sure. Why will he have a successful season and career at South Carolina?
Well, that's a good question. A little loaded.
Very loaded.
Look. There's a lot of good things that are coming back for South Carolina's offense, and I know if you look at it on the surface from last year, you would say, Jay, there wasn't much good at all about the South Carolina offense, and that would be accurate. But when you're in this, I don't care what level it is. When you have to start 4 quarterbacks in 13 games, that's hard. That's really hard. I don't care if you have 4 All-Americans on your team because you've got to get them ready week by week and who's prepared for what mentally, physically, all those things. So number one, he'll have a good season if he can start, and I'll assume they'll try to make a bowl game. So all 13, certainly all 12, then that's good for the offense. There's stability there. I still, to kind of come back, what if Luke Doty doesn't break his foot the second week of August camp? And he's South Carolina's quarterback for all those games. I don't know that Spencer Rattler's in Columbia. I think the relationship with Shane may have helped that anyway. But if Luke had the kind of season they hoped he could, and with the kind of athlete he is, and one guy doing this new offense that they've installed with Marcus Satterfield, there may not have been the need for this coaching staff to go find any transfer quarterback, much less somebody who had been a Heisman level contender, right? So then to answer your question about this year, there's a lot of depth at wide receiver. That's good. But a lot of it is still unproven, and there's a couple of new names coming in. It'll be a by-committee thing. There is not a Brian Edwards. There's not a Deebo Samuel. There's not an Alshon Jeffrey at South Carolina right now, at least one that hasn't emerged. The offensive line is fully intact from last year, plus a couple of backups. That's the good news. The bad, at times, they were not very effective at what they did, but the experience and growth and all that is something to look out for. Like any quarterback, if you can keep him upright and healthy, he can be okay in this conference because you've got some good athletes. But I think that's first and foremost. South Carolina needs to have a season where they can play one quarterback.
There's a lot of hype around Shane Beamer, like a lot. I haven't seen.
Somebody puts that on his own.
Well,
yeah.
I haven't seen as much hype around a South Carolina coach since Spurrier.
Sure.
How is he different? How is he changing the culture there? Why are players wanting to play for him?
It's hard to answer that without sounding like those of us who cover the program are slamming Will Muschamp. Will's a good football coach. I do believe that. I don't know that Will was a good head football coach. I say this a little tongue in cheek, but I'm serious about it. And I've told some other people this the last year or so when I get that kind of question you just asked, Amanda. To me, as I looked at it for the years that Will was in Columbia, and I've met him on several occasions and talked with him a lot, Will thinks that the best way to get better at football is to watch a lot of film. If that doesn't work, you watch more film. And I guess what I say a little tongue in cheek, but he's a good assistant coach. But Will was the head coach. He was the de facto defensive coordinator. Yes, someone else had the title and the salary, but it was Will's defense. Will was the safeties coach. Will was a recruiting coordinator. When South Carolina was building the new facility, he was the design coordinator. He didn't get out in the community. It always felt like it's not that he didn't trust his staff. He did, but he was hands-on everything. And I don't think that can work all the time. And I'm not telling you that if you go out and play some golf with boosters or you go to the Rotary Club meetings that's going to win you more football games. I do think it wins you more support in the community. And I think Tennessee fans and South Carolina fans are very similar in that they want to embrace that person. They want it's family, and it is all across this league. So I don't want to, say it doesn't happen that way all across. So to answer the question now, Shane, who worked in Columbia for 4 years with Steve Spurrier, had 2 of his children there, likes Columbia, understands that community, does take from his father that same sense of reaching out and connecting and staying connected and being willing to do it, and also trusting your staff to go do their job. That's a big thing. Last year after the bowl game, I've focused on this a lot. He was asked on the field and right there on ESPN Live, what's the difference in a 2-win team and a 7-win team, especially with all the turmoil that happened with 4 quarterbacks, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, it's amazing what a little confidence and a little joy can do. Those guys weren't having fun the last 2 years of Will Muschamp. And I talked to enough people that were over there. Every day coming in, there was a small sense of dread that began to grow. I don't care what you do, football, basketball, a bank, a law firm. You can't go to work every day or whatever you do every day dreading doing it. And Shane has taken that part away. They have fun. They have family picnics and gatherings, and they play games. And, you can't do that all the time either. But if you blend in the fun, and these are college kids. And I think sometimes the last staff lost a little sight of that.
Right. So they're it's more like a team rather than he's micromanaging.
Yes.
Because that seems like what Will Muschamp was like. I was always nervous he was going to have a stroke on the sideline.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. His face got so red. Those veins popped out.
I agree.
It made me nervous.
I agree. I think Will gets so pent up. Away from the field sometimes, Will could be great. He's got a great sense of humor, but it's weird how that switch flips every so often. And again, my opinion here, and some may disagree, I often felt in game where you're measured that Will was coaching not to lose. And I think people, y'all know what I mean? Like there's coaching not to lose and there's coaching to win. And I think people sense that. Shane last year, for instance, give you an example of just bringing some confidence back, maybe not the joy. Will wouldn't go for it a lot on 4th and short, and sometimes you shouldn't. Look at the Carolina-Auburn game last year. Auburn should not have gone for 4th and short on the 30-yard line. That was a bad idea. And on their own, you got to punt the ball. Anyway, Shane last year would go for some of those. Maybe they were going to make it, maybe not, but he was trying to teach the team, I believe in you. Will would either kick a 50-something yard field goal or punt, and I just think those little things that begin to add up change the mindset of what those kids are trying to do.
Is South Carolina a little bit overlooked with the people you've talked to in the media? I mean, it seems like everybody I've talked to says Florida, Kentucky, or Tennessee will be second in the East, and really South Carolina hasn't been brought up a lot. Are they ready to make that jump? Because I don't feel great about the other 3 programs I was talking about.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask me today, somebody did yesterday too, who's the second best team in the East right now? And I said, well, just based on what's been going on the last couple of years, oddly enough, it's Kentucky because they're winning, And for Tennessee and South Carolina fans both, watching Kentucky beat them and win 10 games and get some recruits that they don't typically get has been interesting. Can it last? We'll see. But yeah, overlooked maybe is one way to look at it. I just think it's sort of low expectation based on recent history. And, even last year, yes, they went 6-6. But if you look at the results in the games they lost, losing to Tennessee badly, losing to Georgia badly, losing to Clemson badly, losing to A&M badly. The only close loss in conference really was Kentucky. And Carolina should have won that game, in my opinion, but they couldn't score. They just couldn't move the ball in the second half. So I get it. I mean, I think they're about where they should be. And I would say that those other three you just mentioned should be ahead of South Carolina from a mental perspective right now. You got to go win football games. They should be closer to Tennessee than they looked last year, in my opinion. But I think Tennessee is probably, a little better. I don't think Tennessee is miles better. I think Georgia's better than everybody.
Yeah.
Florida is definitely underachieving. And when South Carolina beat Florida the way they did last year, yes, Carolina played a great game. Florida also checked out. They checked out. So I get it. And again, with Kentucky, you got to go beat Kentucky at some point. You can't lose 7 out of 8 to Kentucky and have people think that you should be looked at as better than those other schools. And then, Mizzou beat them last year. The Vandy game needed a 2-minute last-minute drive to win in Columbia. So, I think they're about my prediction is that South Carolina will be picked 5th in the East. It could even be 6th, at least amongst those of us who will vote this week. That wouldn't surprise me.
How do you think the Tennessee-South Carolina game this year is going to pan out? Like, do you have any expectations or any kind of thoughts about it?
I expect South Carolina to look better. I go back to that trick play Carolina tried early.
Yeah.
I know what they wanted out of that. It was a horribly executed play. And you asked a lot of a kid to do something. I mean, Carolina was you were first and goal at the 1 at Neyland Stadium.
I was at that game.
Don't try a trick play. You got 4 chances to give it to a 220-pound tailback. Give him 4 chances to score a touchdown. And if at that point Tennessee gets the ball at the 1-yard line, okay, then Tennessee's got to go 99 yards. Instead, a pick in the end zone, Vols go right back down, and what should have been a tie game is a 2-score game. Carolina got punched in the gut, and never recovered. So I don't expect that again. You'll learn some lessons from that. And again, I understand trying to do that. I just thought it was totally unnecessary, and I think they learned a lesson there. So I don't think that score, my opinion, is indicative of where the two are when you measure. But that was the game last year, so I expect it to be better because I do think talent-wise, these schools are closer together than what last year in Knoxville showed.
Just one last question. Sorry. Hendon Hooker. Lot of hype on Hendon Hooker this year. How do you see South Carolina, on defense against somebody like Hendon Hooker?
I'll borrow from Dan Patrick back when he used to talk about Michael Jordan. You can't stop Michael Jordan. You can only hope to contain him. That kid, it was maybe the most surprising player in the SEC last year simply because you didn't see it coming. I mean, I don't even know if folks in Knoxville and around the state last year knew how much playing time he was going to get. And then
I did because he's my cousin. He's not. Jay's
I know. But he was so impressive. Look, I'm not going to – I have seen – and I know it's not direct comparisons because there's never been a Cam Newton. There may never be a Cam Newton again. But when you look at what Hendon can do, it's just so hard to defend him, like you asked. So I don't know that you scheme up. I mean, and I'm no football coach. Do you get a linebacker and try to spy him the whole time? And if you do, you realize that takes somebody off the table, and a good offensive coordinator will immediately recognize, hey, there's always going to be a hole over here because this guy's going to stay on Hendon the whole time, and we'll go find a way to exploit that. So, again, contain. And, look, it could be games for Vols opponents this year where your best defense is that you better match them score for score because I think Tennessee's going to score a lot of points.
Great stuff. Jay Phillips again. Follow him at Jay Phillips 107.5 with 107.5 The Game in Columbia, South Carolina. We've been doing a couple of these things. I think this is our third year here together, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. Not 20 something, right?
It feels like
So,
it. Yeah, no,
yeah.
I think my first media days was 04.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been doing it a little longer than that, but the first time I actually went to Birmingham was 04. So
Yeah,
good time.
It's been quite the journey.
Yeah.
College football has changed a lot. Stay tuned. This is a production of Off the Hook Sports.